You wake up before the world does. Cold shower. No snooze. No excuses. You have done this for months, maybe years. So why, lying in bed at night, does something in you still feel unfinished? In the next 11 minutes, you will understand why discipline, the very thing you have built your identity on, may be the trap that is quietly costing you the life you actually wanted. And once you understand it, you will never confuse being disciplined with being directed again. Centuries ago, a Roman emperor wrote private notes to himself, not for an audience, not for glory, asking the same brutal question every night. Was today spent on what actually matters, or on what only looked like mattering? He understood something most men discover too late. Discipline without that question is just motion, controlled, impressive, exhausting motion, going nowhere on purpose. 1. The discipline that looks like progress. You have been there. You were the man who built the routine, the 5 a.m. wake-up, the gym streak, the cold plunge, the productivity app with the green check marks lined up like medals. Every box checked felt like proof you were becoming someone. And for a while, that proof was enough, until one quiet morning, mid-routine, a question slipped through the cracks you didn't know were there. Proof of what exactly? The Stoics called this the difference between praxis and purpose, action without an examined aim. What it means for you is simple and uncomfortable. You can be the most disciplined man in every room you walk into, and still be disciplined toward nothing. Discipline was never the goal. It was only ever supposed to be the weapon, and you've been polishing a weapon you never aimed. But here is what most men never realize. 2. What Marcus Aurelius actually meant by self-mastery. You have heard his name used as a gym caption: Stoic emperor, cold discipline, iron will. But that is not what he wrote about, alone, at night, in a tent on a war front, with no one watching and nothing to perform for. He did not write to himself about output. He wrote about judgment, about whether his actions that day served something larger than his own image. The Stoics called this prohieresis, the faculty of choice, the only thing a man truly owns. What it means for you is this: Marcus Aurelius was not disciplined to look unbreakable. He was disciplined to choose correctly, even when no one would ever know. The version of him men quote on Instagram was never the point. The point was the man no one was watching. And it gets worse, because 3. Discipline without direction is just obedience. You were given a target before you ever chose one. A father who measured worth in hours worked. A culture that called rest weakness and called burnout a personality. A fear, quiet, never spoken, that if you slowed down, you would be revealed as soft, as ordinary, as not enough. So you disciplined yourself toward that, toward proving something to people who were never even asking the question. The Stoics called blind obedience to unexamined goals a life lived according to others, secundum alios, ruled by approval instead of reason. What it means for you is this: a man can spend a decade enslaved to a goal he never once interrogated and call that slavery drive. You were not undisciplined. You were precisely disciplined toward a target someone else handed you that you never once turned around to examine. The next point is the one men refuse to hear, but you need to. 4. The mirror test Stoicism forces you to take. You have audited your workouts, your finances, your sleep score, your macros. You have never once audited why. The Stoics had a nightly practice. Seneca wrote of reviewing the day before sleep, not to celebrate what was accomplished, but to ask plainly, did today serve who I am trying to become, or only who I am trying to be seen as? This is the mirror most men avoid because the gym doesn't lie to you. The streak doesn't lie to you, but this question will. What it means for you is brutal. Discipline can become the most sophisticated form of avoidance a man ever builds, busy enough to never have to ask if the busyness means anything. You can fail this mirror for years, and the only evidence will be a life that looks completely in control. But here is what most men never realize. 5. Redirecting the grind. What real discipline serves. You do not need to burn the routine down. The 5 a.m. wake-up was never the enemy. The cold shower was never the enemy. What was missing was never intensity. It was aim. The Stoics did not ask men to discipline themselves less. They asked men to discipline themselves toward character, toward judgment, toward the people in front of them, instead of toward an image no one was actually grading. The Stoics called this living according to nature, not soft, not passive, but aligned. What it means for you is the hardest reframe of this video. The same fire you spent years pointing at your body, your bank account, your image. That fire was never wrong. It was just aimed at the wrong target the entire time. The discipline was never the trap. The unexamined target was. You believed that more discipline would eventually feel like enough. But the Stoics knew something different. No amount of disciplined motion satisfies a man who has never stopped to ask what the motion is for. The exhaustion you feel is not a sign you haven't done enough. It is a sign you have been disciplined toward the wrong question for a very long time. The man who understands this does not throw away the routine. He does not burn down years of effort in a fit of regret. He simply turns the same discipline, the same fire, the same will, toward what was actually worth building all along. He does not celebrate this. He does not perform this either. He simply adjusts quietly and keeps walking. And that is enough. Save this for the night you feel like giving up. If this reached you, the next video goes deeper. What happens to the man who finally stops explaining himself? The truth after 30 days of silence.